H.H.A. Herbert's 100 Harem. The mistake people make with tritite is that they think it's an anti-axiom metal, that it somehow tears it apart or dispels it. But no, it does neither. It resists axiom, which lets it pierce and ignore it. It passes through them without breaking them unless the sheer amount is so much as to literally block off entire sections, which means the near misses he's using to batter the hand of his opposing sniper aren't doing anything to his enhancements. The blade is a nasty piece of work. Not hooked or barbed nasty, but big enough he could eat a meal off it. It's platter-sized, but still has a point despite clearly being a chopper. The next pass has him feel a bone break under his assault, and there's a grunt of pain from the woman. Swing, swing with the compromised hand, and then he breaks another bone in her grip. The tritite blade embeds itself into a nearby wall, and she rushes him. She gets his jacket and slams him against the wall, but he's got so much axiom reinforcing him that it feels more like being gently pressed up against a pillow. He simply smirks in her face as it's now in range, and he rips off the mask and then hits her with an axiom effect to drop her. Technically, he could do it there through the clothing, but she's reinforcing that, and it would make it hard to hit her with it through the interference. The woman drops bonelessly, and he catches her before angling her onto her side in the recovery position, as modified for an Apuk woman of enormous size. We don't normally have trouble with Apuk. I wonder who pissed in your cornflakes. He notes before calling a retrieval and restraints to his location. But putting it on the non-vital list, with downright chaos happening all over Centris, one crazy woman with a gun just wasn't as big a concern. He then starts patting her down and finds her communicator. Currently wiped, so he starts fiddling with it and forcing a reset. Then he gets into the basic operating system and goes through a system restore, with the last one having been done 3 hours ago. He grins when he sees that the latest tidbit is someone saying, "Get ready." He hooks up his communicator to it and starts recording where things go as he puts in a few random commands and then has the number dialed. As it goes through, he makes a few stomping sounds and kicks the wall a couple of times to make it sound like whoever was on the other side got butt dialed rather than anything else. Perhaps annoying, but not something to go on the alert for. He keeps up the noise until the call disconnects from the other side and grins. He then raises an eyebrow as the woman's communicator then goes through a deletion cycle. "How very interesting," he says as he forces the communicator off and then has it restore its data again. He then goes back into his own and quickly sends in the copied data, number and frequency of the other side of that call, with a little message of them likely being the handler of the woman that just tried to kill him. A bit more patting down, and he finds her wallet right under her tail. Some tailed races thought they were clever with their ID strapped into what was basically their third armpit. Malatur? Very poor life choices, girl. Your empress likes us, he notes as he sits down on her side. Hourglass figure or not, the girl is made of corded muscle and is so warm as to be self-heating. He can also feel her axiom flows at this close range and interfere even through the protections woven into her clothing. This lets him keep her easily asleep as he scans the rest of her identification and such. "Hey there, here to take Granny Horny here into custody?" he asks his reinforcements as they arrive. "Local law enforcement, that's fair. This sniper's perch was from the next spire over after all. Not to mention a platen is always a solid reinforcement to have." "Granny?" the officer asks. "She's 500 years old. That's a granny, especially to my little 30. He taunts the still unconscious woman. "I shudder to think what you consider my 700 years of age. You're on my team. It's years of youth for you," he says quickly, and the officer laughs before groaning. "What's wrong?" "Exhaustion. I've seen more action in the last few hours than I have in the last few decades combined. What was the council thinking? They were thinking they found something obscenely dangerous and that it was safer to kick up all this trouble than let things lie," he says, and she looks at him. "You know what's going on," she says, "and with an NDA, so will you." He answers, and she blinks and considers. "I don't need details, I just need to know if it really is that bad." "It is. It's a situation that gets worse the more you consider it, and with the first response being the urge to panic, I'm sure you can start putting it together." he says, and she looks at him oddly before sighing. Will this last much longer? She asks, and he shrugs. That depends entirely on forces outside of my control or knowledge. I'm sorry, he answers sincerely. However, I have seen Lady Basilash on the move. If the primals are starting to say stop, then I'll wager it won't last much longer. Which means the real challenge is on the approach, the officer says, and he nods. If by real challenge you mean the paperwork and sitting on everything till we can sort it, then yes. Herbert agrees, and she chuckles. Look, there are only so many places to hide from the secretaries and bureaucrats. Cut me some slack. True enough. You can also only tell them that your communicator is down so many times before they stop caring, she says, and he chuckles with a nod. All right, hop off her. I need to properly arrest her. Do you need her awake? She came at me with that knife over there after I dodged her bullets. Eventually, where's her rifle? It's the scattered debris around the room. I got my hands on it and broke it against her, he says, and she nods, even as she maneuvers Molitor's arms behind her and cuffs her. She's then tagged for a teleport and vanishes after a few more moments as the officer starts bagging up and sorting all the debris and the knife. Herbert's communicator then goes off and he rolls his neck. And that's my break time officially over with. Have a good day, ma'am. I've got work to do, he says. You were on a break, she demands, and he shrugs. When you're dodging bullets, you can't exactly call time out and tell them to come back in 15 so you're rested, Herbert says before chuckling. Although imagine if you could. Huh. Anyways, excuse me, please. Then he's gone in a recall teleport. Within 10 minutes, he's getting into position as a pissed-off Drin has a pair of utterly terrified Cobes in her grip and guns to either of their hands. A bit of math as he considers the wind, the distance, the aerodynamics of the tri-type bullet, and a few more things to consider. The coils on the gun warm up, and then on his exhale, his finger doesn't squeeze the trigger so much as caress it. The bullet flies. The world is still for a moment, and the crossed weapons of the Dren are both compromised at the same time. The force knocks her back, the shock breaks her grip, and the destroyed weapons fail to fire in the chaos as the hostages drop to the ground and scramble away with what little wits they have in this panic, as an Agile in a uniform suddenly tackles the dazed and confused Dren before she can fully rise up. He lets out a relieved breath and then quickly sends the recorded information off his rifle to the police force he's assisting before heading off to the next hot zone. The hostage screams as she's thrown over the edge, and it's abruptly cut off as a tiny figure hits her with a teleportation tag, and she's abruptly falling on a surface that perfectly dispels the impact. She's then helped up by heavily armed soldiers and gently escorted out of the room. Back at the devolving hostage situation, the abruptly cut off screen has the leader, who still has her own hostage, to order her now hostage less underling to check. She then turns as her underling is grabbed by the nose and pulled down before her scream is also cut off. Then a tiny child in a formal suit pops up over the lip of the hole in the spire and looks around. He then claps his hands together and smiles brightly. He is adorable. Okay, so who wants to surrender first? Anyone that does will get preferential and even downright gentle treatment. Why would we surrender? The leader asks. Because I'm going to win, Herbert says calmly. And how will you be doing that? She asks before suddenly slumping down and out cold, along with all her fellow criminals. Mostly by distracting you rubes from our cloaking forces, he answers as the police rush in to tag and arrest the criminals. The next fire to put out ends oddly, in that he expects that Rikaxa has decided to apply a little of her substantial pull in order to stop things from going too far. But having all the criminals answer their communicators on both sides of the turf war, universally display fear, and then retreat to their base camps before packing up with looks towards evacuation is a hell of a thing to see. Guess the game's no fun if all the prizes get destroyed in the confusion, Herbert notes before calling in this hot zone is cleared and requests the next one. He's tracing the axiom effect all over the complicated bundle of Kutha and Tritite, wire thin and brimming with energy around one of the main support struts to the next level up. After a little bit, he pinches an intersection and rips out the thin Tritite from the rest of the bundle before breathing a sigh of relief as the axiom fades from the improvised bomb. He lets out a sigh of relief at this before rubbing his face. His communicator alerts him to the other bombs being taken care of, and there are no further alerts. Something has happened and the remaining fires are refusing point blank keep burning. He suspects that the news of both Rakaxa and Bazalash deciding that the chaos must end has ended it. He smooths out his suit and nods before departing again. Time to start speaking with the commanders on things. The door opens and all the women in there turn towards him. It's more than Jalasi, Elaine, and Mia. It's a small army of just the higher-ups alone. He gets a friendly wave from Chief Bowman, and he returns it with a smile. So things are no longer actively exploding, which means we all need to have a talk on who's doing what to try and sort out the madness, he says as he grabs everyone's attention. A few of them double-take at the sight of him. He still looks like a private stream, but exaggerated. Are you here to represent the undaunted in this? For the next 3 hours I am. Then my day ends and another will be here. You may deal with both of us as if we were the same person. Don't worry, it won't interrupt the proceedings, he assures them. I see, it's good you're here. We've had innumerable reports of the undaunted assisting local officers and precincts. There's not enough to get to every single danger zone, but there are enough of us to sweep around and quickly try and put things out, especially as many of them are now refusing to come out on the offense. We need to get some kind of numbers to this, though. Do we have any idea what percentile are actually hostile? Who was panicked, and how many, hopefully few, have been able to go underground again after that? Herbert asked. A lot of data archives are reporting damage or sabotage of some kind. No one is appreciating being spotted the way they were. The question is, will this have to happen again? Chief Bowman asks. My precinct works closely with the undaunted, but we've had few answers as to why this was happening, only that it needs to happen. We found an organization with an enormous amount of blood metal, and the means to create a great deal more in a more subtle manner than usual. We needed to see how many potential stashes there are. As such, the Council, the Tritite Lady, and the Undaunted are in complete agreement and initiated this massive sweep over the planet. Indulgences can normally be allowed, but massive blood metal stores is far beyond what any allowable indulgence can permit. Please tell me that you've merely found some kind of slaughter room with the metal paneling so soaked with blood as to stain it permanently. No, the false Kutha that devours further axiom. Blood metal, Jalasi states. Furthermore, with the sheer retaliation we have seen, my lady has determined that her eye must be opened wider until the fullness of the madness in Centris is at the very least lessened, if not burnt out root and branch. Her initial coming to counter and offer proper judgment to mindbenders expanded when she took a short trip into the bottom 10 levels of Aspire. Now it expands again as she finds that there are sufficient danger in some of the groups formerly considered to be little more than social clubs. She is considering calling a crusade. The room is silent at this. There is more, Herbert says, and the room turns to him with wide eyes. The inevitable is on approach. We have a little more than 16 hours before it arrives. When it does, any number of things can happen. Well, I mean, a doubling of humans is impressive, but not so concerning. Their third contact, ma'am. They are a reaction to what the Undaunted have done, including forming the Undaunted and forswearing our allegiance to Earth. There is a very good chance that they are coming to arrest the Undaunted and drag us to Earth in chains for treason. Excuse me, why? Someone asks in a scandalized tone. Oh, come on. You've read the hacked files, haven't you? Did you see all the orders every single crew member, soldier and passenger on the Dauntless got? There was no way we would not be committing some form of treason. The only way to obey the spirit of the mission was to disregard nearly every single order we got. So you think they're liable to do something? They're going to do something. The what is the question. Now, how much mess can we clean up before the next mess gets here? Herbert asks. Are you going to surrender when they get here? Of course not. I have a lot of responsibilities, and I can't do a damn thing about a single one if I just surrender to the goon of a bureaucrat who's flailing around and trying to be seen doing something, Herbert says, and there are a few frowns. He glances back and smirks. The fact that you're all here means that you're not the type to flail for just looking like you're moving.